we are now in our more mature work. I think we're in our more mature work. Who knows? Yes. Is that then God can become a signifier for the doubt and the lack itself. So there's a point where God is the kind of what covers over, like an ideological covering over of the doubt or the lack. Then God becomes superfluous to this. But what's really interesting is in the work of people like, in the past, people like Hegel or Weil, but also Zizek today and McGowan and others, is that we need a signifier for nothing. And actually, the signifier God could potentially be the name, not for that which covers over the unknowing, not in terms of Pascal, not that God is the thing that fills the void, but God is the name of the void itself. Which I actually weirdly had in my first book. I mean, I'm critical of my first book, and I just, as Barry said, did a critique of it. But there were moments that I thought I hit something.
That's the interesting thing, though, is when the great gift I think of getting a bit older is you look back and you realize that there were hints of things that you then spent a decade trying to work out, and it was actually latent there.
Yes.
You just didn't realize it. I don't know, some people would say, oh, you weren't ready to know it or whatever. I just think sometimes the unconscious is just picking up on shit, and it takes you a while to catch up with.
Which is why, absolutely, because Zizek talks about this, I think, brilliantly, and it's a very Hegelian point, which is why your early work isn't the key to understanding your later work. More often than not, your later work is the key to understanding your early work, because only when you get to the mature work can you then find what was latent, what was in the soil of the early work, which never could quite be seen until it reached maturity.
It's very abstract and very naive, but I told you about that school report that my brother found, from when I was 8 years and 5 months old. And the three main subjects were music, art, and religion.
Yes, it was
something.
there.
It was there. It was, and I was 8 years old. So I'm not saying it was, but I'm just saying there are things that lurk.
Yes,
and I do think that when you have distance and you look back, you see things as you did, like that there's a reference to an idea about.
Yes.
The name of God, or the idea of God, that 20 years later you're going,
and it's retroactively created. I mean, one of the examples Zizek uses is like when a writer like Kafka appears. Kafka is so new that you can't really put him in the history of writing, but then once he's done his body of work, it is integrated, and then you find antecedents, but in a way what you discover in the past that's Kafkaesque only becomes Kafkaesque
because
in light of Kafka.
Yeah.
So